Leader Sussan Ley will announce a new-look coalition frontbench this week that seeks to balance competing factions by rewarding the moderates while granting Conservatives prominent roles. Joining us live now is the Liberal Senator Jane Hume out of Canberra. So where do you expect to land, Jane?
Well, that's entirely up to the leader, Pete. I know that Sussan Ley has said that she wants to create a party, rebuild a party that respects, reflects and represents modern Australia, and her frontbench lineup will inevitably do exactly that. We want to make sure that we introduce all of those people that can make some serious contributions to the rebuild of the party so that we are a credible opposition and, more importantly, a respectable and electable force at the next election in 3 years' time.
Would you want to stay on in shadow finance if you even had the option?
I would always serve at the pleasure of my leader in whatever capacity she thought fit. The good news is we have a very talented lineup in our ranks, and there'll be people that can step up to those roles that can make a real contribution. I noticed that some of the headlines today are mentioning some names. There seems to be an awful lot of people out there, both maybe potentially colleagues and also commentators playing a little bit of fantasy football. But when it comes down to it, there are people that have incredible life experiences, whether it be in farming, whether it be in business, whether it be in legal professions or accounting professions, that will be able to step up and make a genuine contribution.
Can it be a harmonious coalition?
It always is a harmonious coalition. Of course it can be. The most important thing is that we bring those unique and diverse perspectives to the table and use those unique and diverse perspectives in our decision-making ability. That's the way we get to better policy outcomes. That's, I know, what Sussan Ley wants to achieve.
Given your missteps, policy missteps from the last period, how do you think that shapes your outlook? Do you think it can make you better at what you do, or do you think your personal brand has been damaged moving forward?
I think that all of my coalition colleagues will take a lot of learnings from the last 3 years and use those to create a much better, much stronger opposition over the next 3 years. And as I say, a more credible and electable force in 3 years' time when we come to the next election. The most important thing we can do now is bring all of our talent to the table and make sure that we hold this bad Labor government to account, because they're already making bad decisions. We haven't even returned to Parliament, and you can see that their bad decisions, bad policies, misplaced policies are getting headlines, and there is some disquiet from industry.
Just elaborate on that. Which one? Which one are you pointing to there?
Particularly the superannuation tax, I think we know is a very bad policy.
Why didn't you make a bigger thing of that during the campaign?
Well, in fact, 2 years ago, Pete, we said that not only would we oppose that policy when it was put forward with the legislation, that we would repeal it when we were in government. That didn't come without a cost, and we're learning just how big that cost is right now, because this really is the only revenue-raising measure that the government has, and it's a considerable one. They had the opportunity to pass this legislation before Parliament rose, and they chose not to because they were held to ransom over indexation. So indexation is actually a design feature, or lack of indexation is a design feature of this superannuation policy, which means it's going to affect Australians for generations to come at lower and lower levels. This is not a simple, modest proposal where only 80,000 retirees are affected. More and more will be affected every year. Moreover, this is a tax on unrealised capital gains, something that has never been tried before and has never worked before. We don't think that this is a good precedent to set. It's a brand new tax. It's essentially a wealth tax. It's a retirement tax. And we think that this is a terrible mistake. I think that Labor are now learning just the extent of the opposition towards it.
Do you want nuclear to be part of the mix going forward?
Well, we certainly want cheaper energy. There is no doubt about that. That's a principle that the Liberal Party holds very dear indeed. We want to make sure that there is an approach to our energy mix that allows for the market to decide on on energy
So will you be
solutions
arguing
that will
for it or
bring
not?
down prices over time. Well, we'll have that discussion in the party room. I think that's the most important thing is that we say that we want to make sure that we lift the moratorium. I think that is a sensible approach. But the most important thing is that
So
there
that's
actually
the first
is a
step.
credible pathway, that there is a credible pathway to net zero. Now, that's a discussion for Sussan Ley and for David Littleproud as part of the coalition agreement. We know that. But the most important thing is that we have a plan to bring down energy prices, because Australian businesses and indeed Australian households are relying on that.
I know there's a lot of fantasy football that's being played out, as you rightly. This always happens, but do you know when this all might be announced this week?
It's entirely in the hands of the leader. I'm sure she wants to take her time to make the right decisions.
All right, fair enough. Jane, thank you. Chat again soon.